today about peeling potatoes, which is very random, but I'll sort of explain it at the very end as a bit of an analogy. Just to tell you my own story, I think it just kind of helps. My name's Niall, and I started out life as a chef, which is not very entrepreneurial at all, and I basically started here in Dublin, and I went to peel potatoes at the very start. I walked into a guy called Conrad Gallagher, who's kind of a bit disgraced these days as a chef, but back in the day he was one of the best chefs around, and I just said, can I have a job? And he gave me a job basically peeling potatoes for, I think it was pretty much nothing. So I worked for him for a couple of weeks, but eventually after sort of 3 or 4 years, I wound up working on this yacht, which is owned by Paul Allen, the guy who set up Microsoft with Bill Gates, and he's worth about 40 billion. And we used to say, hello, I was his personal chef for about 2.5 years. And there's a basketball court on the very back of the yacht there, and that's just for one person. He's got about 60 staff on there. We used to go and do the shopping in a helicopter and stuff like that. So it was a pretty cool job for a couple of years, and we had a lot of fun. So I came back to Dublin and started a website called iFoods, this is maybe 5 years ago. And what we did, because I was a chef and because I was kind of really getting into technology at the time, was we kind of came up with the idea of making cooking videos. So teaching people how to cook online. This is probably, YouTube was just starting to get big at the time. Facebook was really in its early days. So we thought it was a pretty cool idea. Myself and Sean, who was my business partner at the time, went on the Dragon's Den in the UK. We were just trying to raise money basically. We had rounded up a bit of money from sort of our friends and family. I had a bit of cash. We got a certain way along the path, went on the Dragon's Den, and eventually we didn't get money from them, but we raised a total of about 500 grand to start this business. So it was all going quite well. We got up to about 6 or 8 staff, and then we made a complete balls of it. We absolutely, it was quite a good business. We'd sort of maybe 500,000 people were coming to the site. There was lots of people watching the videos. We got tons of press coverage, but we didn't have a clue how to make money. We didn't actually think it was important at the time. We were having loads of fun. The business was we thought successful, but it wasn't making any money. And eventually, it kind of petered out, and it was a bit of a failure. And the amount I learned from that was immense, because if you've ever failed in a business, and I'm sure some of you might already have, or even the minister was saying, I think he had a failed business. It's the biggest learning curve you could ever have, and it's probably the one reason why people don't start businesses is the pure fear of failure. Nobody wants to turn around to their mates and say, look, I've raised £500,000 and made a bollocks of it, but we did, and that put me in a position which was about 3 years ago, where option A was, well, I'll tell you, option B, first of all, was I could go back on to one of the yachts. That's the other yacht I worked on. And I was earning about 8 grand a month, totally tax-free, no rent to pay, all your food paid for, traveling all over the world, and literally working 9 to 5, because Paul Allen has 3 of the yachts and he doesn't really come on them that much. So it's basically your own private yacht. So that was option A, or option B. Option A was, I was living in Sandyford at the time. I just met somebody called Lauren, who I set up my next business with. I think we had between us maybe 4 grand, literally. That was overdraft sort of scenario. My spare bedroom, and working from 6 in the morning to 1 at night. And that's ridiculously, that goes back to the point of entrepreneurs being mad. There's definitely a bit of madness in there. Anybody sane would go for option B, but I went for option A. No salary for the first 3 months, and we set up a company called Simply Zesty. So that was 3 years ago in May. Next month, and we were an agency doing social media. The difference between the last business and this business is that we've now figured out how to make money, which was a bonus, and it's started to go quite well. One thing that's kind of, because we're a social media agency, and we went to a couple of events, like networking events, and we just found them useless. It's full of people looking for business, and it's just very time consuming. You had to leave the office. So we just decided to start a blog. And that's kind of one of the main catalysts for the success of our business. We just spent all the time writing on our blog, and we tried to sort of position ourselves as experts in social media in Ireland. And very quickly the blog sort of grown to the point where it gets 700,000 or 800,000 visitors per month now, and it helped us sort of position ourselves very, very quickly as experts, because normally an agency would sell their expertise and sort of try and keep a little bit of the secret nature of the business back. We just said, fuck it, we'll just give it to everybody, and 99% of the people come to the blog, use the information and never come near us, but 1% of people would actually come. So within 3 years we've been able to build up really cool clients here in Ireland. We've just launched campaigns in Sweden, Russia, Germany, and then we've just signed a huge big client all across Southeast Asia, which is Teradata, which I don't think they realise the sort of size we are, but we're sort of they're absolutely huge. But it's fantastic. We've been able to grow very, very quickly, all the way from the spare bedroom to the point where about 3 weeks ago UTV decided to buy us, which was fantastic news. So we've been able to sell the business in less than 3 years. And it was kind of the sort of thing, let's be honest, every entrepreneur, we all do it for various different reasons, but some people would do it for the money. But most people, the main reason I would do it actually is seeing people come into the office every day. We work with, everybody's very young, it's a really, really cool place to work. We've got an office cat, we play ping pong. It doesn't feel like it's a real job in any way. And that goes back to the point of sort of watching the clock. I never, ever, ever, and the guys will tell you now the exact same thing, there's not enough seconds in the day. I pray every single day that the day would be 2 or 3 hours longer. So you've gone from a position of doing something pretty cool, but counting the seconds down, to doing something that you just absolutely are passionate about and you fall in love with. There's entrepreneurs, you look at big famous people like Richard Branson and stuff like that, he's obviously flying to space. All that stuff seems like a million miles away, but they all have to start somewhere. All these guys started. Richard Branson started out selling magazines in his downstairs in his gaff. Zuckerberg started in the exact same position that you guys are now. Same with the guys in Google. They started in a sort of a spin-out project. So they all start somewhere. Even though you're looking at him now and he's flying to space, those guys are started from very humble beginnings. And just to sort of show you that even though we're in terrible times at the moment, there's just 3 companies that have picked out quickly. Apple, biggest company in the world, MTD, Microsoft, all started in recessions, really, really bad recessions. And look at where they are now. So starting a company, people will tell you in a recession, is actually a very, very good time to start, because when the economy does turn, you'll be in a fantastic place. Just rushing through these now very quickly. There's everybody talks about the Facebooks and the Google, and the government hold them up as fantastic things. They're not. I know lots of people in there, and they check ad copy and stuff like that here in Dublin. So that's great if you want to get a job in there. I'm not knocking it completely, but I think it's far more interesting to start Irish companies and have maybe the next Google or the next Facebook come from Ireland, rather than just getting companies for the 12.5%. So I genuinely think that the next startup should be coming from you guys here. And literally all you need, I think, is a laptop and 10 grand in cash. I don't think you need much more than that to start a business these days. Obviously there's bigger businesses that might need more capital, but there's free software out there, there's free marketing tools. If you can probably scramble 10 grand together between friends and family and take a bit of a punt on it. Zuckerberg and the other guys didn't have much more cash than that, so there's opportunity there. I'll leave you one last thing. If I could give you one bit of advice, if I was younger, and I'm still going to do it as soon as I get a chance, is I'd learn to code. So Minister and President were talking about Coder Dojo. You can learn to code for free online. That's one called Code Academy. There's loads of them, and they're basically saying that coding is like the new Latin, or it's like speaking a language. If I had any kids, I'd be drilling them to code from the age of 5, because it's where the future lies, and you can go, you're probably thinking, oh, I don't even do anything in tech. Just go and learn to code. I guarantee it'll become very, very useful in the future. Free tools like Skype, videos, Twitter, all out there. And that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, the whole point of the story. Peel and potatoes. I started off, at the very start, I worked for free for Conor Gallagher as a chef, and I learned enough that took me on a bit of a journey. go out and talk to one of the guys and say you'll come in and work for them for free for 2 weeks over Easter, or go to the best company in your space and offer your services. You'll only gain in the long run. Don't think of the quick cash and just do a job for a job. Find something cool. That's it. You can follow me there on Twitter. Thank you.